Getting good at Rainbow Six Siege takes time, but today I'm going to show you 3 ways that I have helped fast track my gameplay and have really helped me with my skills. So without further ado, let's get into it. Tip number 1 that has really helped me is actually looking at the thing on the screen instead of looking at the screen. It's hard to describe this and what I mean, but it's basically you're trying to get into the game, you know. I found oftentimes for like the first 15 minutes of warming up, I wasn't really paying attention to what was on the screen. Like, I was just kind of looking at the screen, and it was a really weird thing to recognize that you actually need to pay attention to what's on the screen. I know that might sound stupid at first, but it's very real. Like, what I'll do to make sure I'm doing this is once I get into the game, I start up a T-hunt, I'm ready to go. I will actually, like, while I'm running forward, I will physically look around with my eyes, like look left, up, down, and look at various things in the screen without moving my crosshairs over to them. Like, I'll keep my crosshair looking one direction and I'll use my eyes to look left and right at various things in the game to kind of warm up my eyes to the idea of, hey, I'm in the game and I'm not just looking at the screen. I'm actually looking at things in the game and not just staring at this screen and looking around, because it's almost like you're almost like zoning out if you do that. But if you're looking around at things in the screen, at least for the first, couple minutes, it'll kind of train your brain, train your mind to actually focus and pay attention to what's happening in the game instead of just kind of staring at the screen and expecting to be able to focus on something. And in Pro League, you'll see where they have like that eye tracker that's tracking the player's eyes. And if you notice how much eye movement there is on the screen, like, they're not just staring at the center of the screen the whole time. Their eyes are jumping all over the screen. So if you can kind of help your eyes warm up to doing that in your warm-up, it's going to help you speed that warm-up up. It's going to help you speed up kind of your getting in the game, in the zone. So that's what I'll do when I first get in the game. I'll look at various things, and specifically, like, while I'm running, I'll be running and using my eyes to look at, like, focus on certain things passing by. Look up, look at a lamp pole, or look at a building, a very specific spot, and then I'll move and adjust to something else. It's such a small and simple exercise, but it's actually extremely helpful for focusing, especially when you go to start shooting at terrorists, because whenever you go to shoot at terrorists and whenever you go to shoot at enemies online, you actually have to focus on the target to bring your crosshair to it, instead of just kind of looking at the screen and moving your mouse around. You actually have to use your eyes to focus on the target to do that. And I know that might sound ridiculous, it might sound obvious, but if you pay attention to that actively and intentionally, I think you'll find it's actually a lot less automatic than you think it is. So try to do that in your warm-up especially, and then definitely try to kind of warm it up when you get into the round. Tip number 2 that has really helped me is controlling your emotions and trying to think analytically and not emotionally. This is super hard and way easier said than done. And I'm mostly talking about, once you're in game and something's happening, for example, you're about to take a gunfight, it can be really easy to get like nervous or get tense when you go to take the gunfight, or maybe it's now, or even like in a more extreme circumstance, and the hardest one to control is when you're in a clutch situation. So you're in a 1v1, a 1v2, 1v3 or up, you know, controlling your emotions. Because what happens is, you know, for the most part, you're probably playing analytically and rationally throughout the game, but whenever you get into these situations, you start to, all these like tense emotions like start to flood to your mind. You know, you start to get anxious, like, is he gonna, you know, am I aiming the right height? Is he going to peek me? Am I, you know, in the right position? Just all this stuff is flooding into your mind. And the best thing you can do in that situation, at least in my experience, is to just take a deep breath and calm down and just accept. For me, this is help for me, is just accept that you may not win that situation. Like, you may not come out on top. That's not to say you don't try. Of course, obviously you try. That's the goal, that's the point. But if you kind of just accept that, you know what, it's okay if this doesn't work out and I lose the gunfight, or this doesn't happen, you can then kind of begin to think analytically about what to do and how to handle this situation. I want to show you a clip where pretty quickly I was put into a situation that was not ideal. And in those situations, it's really important to not play scared, but to play smart. And that's really difficult to do, especially if you're worried about dying, if you're worried about losing. You want to try to think critically about what to do and the best outcome. And you really can't do that very well if your mind is full of thoughts of worry and basically just playing scared. You can't think critically. You can't think on your toes. At least for me, I think a lot better, a lot clearer when I'm relaxed and when I'm not nervous. So kind of an example of that is this clip here where I'm maestro and I'm pretty quickly put into I would consider a tight situation. Fuse is fusing from above, thermite's getting the wall, and one of my teammates dies, so it's a 4v5. They have the wall, another of my teammates dies, and now it's 3v5. I could have played scared, I could have played passive, I could have worried about, you know, them peeking and not done anything, or sat back, and that may have been the smarter move. I don't want them to gather themselves and get ready to do what it is they're gonna do their push. I want to put a stop to that. In the process, I end up weaning them down to 3v3 instead of 3v5. Now, it was difficult to try to stay calm in that situation. It was almost a 2v5 before Bandit got docked back up. But you have to stay cool, you have to stay analytical, you have to think about where the opponents are, what they're going to do. And it's just the way I've been doing this is just practice. You just have to, whenever you get into those situations, you have to take a deep breath. And like I say, what helps me is realize that you may not come out on top, but to try anyway, you know, because kind of once you, at least for me, like once you kind of accept that it may not go well, you can then begin to think about what you need to do to make it go well. And just don't worry about whether you win or lose. Just try to win without the worry. Final tip number 3 is really simple but easily overlooked, and that's just go watch players that are way better than you. This is huge. It's going to be really hard for you to learn how to become better if you don't watch anyone else who is better than you, and you don't try to emulate their tactics, their strategies if you can, what they do, how they do it. It's a really simple thing that you can do to kind of instantly improve your gameplay, because I think you'll find a lot of what the pros do you can actually start doing right away. Some of the even just the simple tactics that they do, some of those things aren't just because they're good. Sometimes the things they do just work no matter who's doing them. And that's kind of how you need to think about it whenever you're going and watching people who are better than you, is what are they doing that just works for them, that could also work for me too, even though I'm not as good as them. Because there are things they do that just work, and that's why they do them, because they work. It's not necessarily that they're super skilled, which of course they are, but not everything they do works for them because they're super good at the game. There are some things that they have discovered, there's some things that probably better players have showed them that they've even like died by, that are just better. Just simple tactics. I'm talking about the tactics. A wise man once said, when asked, should I focus on my strategy or should I learn the tactics first? He said, learn the tactics, because I can't imagine creating a strategy without knowing the tactics first. So that's a way you can kind of turbo boost your gameplay right away without even having to necessarily get a lot of skill, because a lot of these tactics are things that are predetermined, they're pre-figured out for you, and they're just little kind of like odd things that work in the game. And what you're doing by repeating those, by emulating those, is kind of just like downloading an instant skill, just like instant. So do those things, and that will help propel you, A, to be better in the meantime until you can figure out your own tactics, and then B, to help figure out your own tactics, because you'll see patterns in what they do. So I really encourage you to go out and watch other players, go watch Pro League, pay attention to what they're doing, ask yourself why are they doing that. This is going to be really huge in you moving forward, propelling forward, and that's what I recommend. Alright, well that's going to do it for this video. I hope these insights were helpful for you. If they were, go ahead and like and subscribe down below, and also turn on your notifications, and I'll have more for you soon. And I'll be posting more insights. I'll be posting once a week, and I'm thinking about doing a kind of a funny series as well. We'll see. Alright, thanks so much.
He pre-fired me, dude. They're in sight. What?
Yeah, they just rushed.
I'm pushing main.
Capital dead.
They're planting?
This is
You
gridlock.
have to use it.
Meeting hatch.
Okay.
Somebody else's freezer, I'm about to kill him.
Oh, I got killed from the
Like, that is so... No,
Did you kill the guy in the hatch, yes or no?
No.
I got thermite in the freezer.
I did bad.